Okay, so we're continuing with our reading. And so, How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market. This book was written by Nicholas Darvis. Would love to share my personal experience with coming across this book. And in fact, the ebook I've had for probably 3 to 4 years, but it wasn't until within the last 18 months where I began to dive into the Audible version. And so when I did finally download the Audible version of this book, I listened to that only for 30 days. And there were a lot of things that I could relate to from Nicholas Darvis. And reading this book, we're not doing it for the purposes of understanding his technical strategy. We're looking at it from more of a trading psychology, forex psychology standpoint. Okay, so we're going to take some lessons out of this today for the purposes of trading psychology. Now, I know some people talk about his box system that he used for trading and getting profits. Not what this particular lecture is about. Would love to preface our reading today with just sharing one of the things that made me relate to this book was he traveled frequently internationally. And in fact, his career in stock markets started, which we'll read here in just a second, while he was traveling and he was offered a Canadian stock. And so as as I've evolved in my own trading and being in places where maybe internet was limited, or being in an airport, or being on a plane for 30 hours, or having a layover for 24 hours, or things like that, sometimes being able to access charts as we do in the modern day was not easy. Okay. And when he mentioned that the only communication that he had with the chart was literally the price, he would receive literal telegrams, not the text messaging system that we use today in the modern world. This book was published in 1986, so it would literally be a telegram, meaning someone called the hotel or wherever he was staying and left a message, and the hotel concierge then pass that message on to him. And so that's how he was trading, believe it or not, with just the price information. And not to spoil the book, but one of the things that he talked about is how when he was traveling internationally, he found himself more profitable versus when he moved within miles of being at the stock market, either Chicago or New York. Right now, it's slipping my recollection as to which one was he moved close to. However, that drew a interesting parallel between someone that is removed and is able to trade their own system versus getting caught up in the day-to-day grind and the noise and the chatter of what other people think about the stock market. So he was a completely independent trader, and then he found himself within miles of the stock market, which caused him to see some some losses in his trading. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start our lesson for the day and really just dive into How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market by Nicholas Darvis. Now, again, just to reiterate, this was published originally in 1986, so probably before a lot of us were born. And it was republished in 94, 71, and looks like 60 as well, 1960. The contents of this book, just to break it down, looks like our first chapter is under the header of The Gambler, which he highlights his Canadian period of trading. The Fundamentalist, where he entered Wall Street and his first crisis. The Technician, developing the box theory. I've seen a lot of videos on the Nicholas Darvis box theory. Again, this is not a how to trade the box theory type of lecture. This is more so of how to think about trading from a trading titan. Okay. So cables around the world, again, that's that telegram that we were just previously referencing, and the techno fundamentalists. So during the baby bear market, the theory starts to work. My first half a million, my second crisis. $2 million. Now, he does include quote unquote receipts. He had an interview with Time Magazine and they verified everything that he said about his trading to be true. And so that's something that is rarely done in today's industry. However, it was great to see that they didn't just say, well, he's He's saying he made $2 million, and yeah, we're just going to do an interview on him. So at the end of the book, he talks about his interview with Time Magazine and how they vetted his trading records and all of that to be able to put that actual article in the magazine. So, without further ado, we're going to skip the publisher's preface, of course. We're going to skip the author's introduction. I do happen to have this on Audible as well, and so the first time I decided to listen to the Audible version, the I tend to listen to my books on 1.5 speed or greater, and so got through the book in a short period of time. Let me just check to see what is the let's see here. Tell you how long it is. Totally. Okay, so I'm gonna just start it at the beginning, and then so it looks like it's approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes if you are reading it on 1.5 speed. Let's just say you do normal speed. That's going to put it at around, let me see here, 3 hours and 30 minutes. So that's how I was able to knock this book out rather quickly. And then after reading it that, or listening to it that first time, that was the only book that I listened to for 30 days. Okay. And 30 days after that, that's all I was listening to every single day. All right. So The Gambler, let's start with that. Canadian period. It was November 1952. I was playing in Manhattan's Latin Quarter in New York when my agent telephoned. He had received an offer for me and my dancing partner Julia to appear in a Toronto nightclub. This was owned by twin brothers Al and Harry Smith, who made me a very unusual proposition. They offered to pay me in stock instead of money. I've had some strange experiences in show business, but this was a new one. I made further inquiries and found that they were prepared to give me 6,000 shares in a company called Brylan. This was a Canadian mining firm in which they were interested. The stock at that time was quoted at 50 cents a share. I knew stocks went up and down. That was about all I did know. So the Smith brothers, so I asked the Smith brothers if they would give me the following guarantee. If the stock went below 50 cents, they would make up the difference. They agreed to do this for a period of 6 months. It so happened that I could not keep the Toronto date. I felt badly about letting the brothers down, so I offered to buy the stock as a gesture. I sent them a check for $3,000 and received 6,000 shares of Bryland stock. I thought no more about it until one day, 2 months later, I idly glanced at the stock's price in the paper. I shot upright in my chair. My 50 cents Braylon stock was quoted at 190. Keep in mind, he bought it at 50 cents. Okay, so that was $1.40 increase. I sold it at once and made a profit of close to 8 grand. Okay, so he went from 3,000 to 11,000 in 2 months. At first, I could not believe it. It was like magic to me. I felt like the man who had went to the races for the first time and with beginner's luck back every winner. Let's say lucked with beginner's luck backed every winner. Cashing his winnings, he simply inquired, "How long has this been going on?" That's very odd, or is it very common? Because that first win, you're like, "What? I've been missing out on this opportunity to earn money this whole time." So I'm sure hey, I relate to that. I decided I had been missing a good thing all my life. I made up my mind to go into the stock market. I have never gone back on this decision. But little did I know what problems I would encounter in this unknown jungle. I knew absolutely nothing about the stock market. I was not even aware, for instance, that there was one in New York. All I had heard about were Canadian stocks, particularly mining shares. As they had been very good to me, obviously the smart thing to do was to stay with them. But how to start? How to find what stocks to buy? You could not pick them out with a pen. You must have information. That was my major problem. How to obtain it? I now realize that this, in fact, impossible for the ordinary man, but then I thought I had only to ask enough people to learn the great secret. I thought if I asked often enough, I would get acquainted with people in the know. I asked everybody I met if they had any stock market information. Working in nightclubs, I meet rich people. Rich people must know. Mm. So I asked him. The question was always on my lips. Do you know any do you know a good stock? Oddly enough, everybody did seem to know one. It was surprising. Apparently, I was the only man in America who did not have his own first-hand stock market information. I listened eagerly to what they had to say and religiously followed their tips. Whatever I was told to buy, I bought. It took me a long time, I wonder what he means by that, to discover that this is one method that never works. I wonder how long of a time it took him. Let's pause there because how often have we come into the market and been like, oh my goodness, this person told me this, or this online guru said to buy this, or this person, this major influencer, same Jason Derulo is telling me he's buying $20,000 in his meme coin. Nicholas Darvis says that it didn't work. I was the perfect pattern of the optimistic, clueless, small operator who plunges repeatedly in and out of the market. I bought stock in companies whose name I could not pronounce. What they did and they were, where they came from, I had no idea. Someone told me who told, someone told someone who told me. There could have been no more slap happy, ignorant buyer than I was. All I knew was what the last head waiter in the last nightclub I had performed in told me what was good. Wow, we were just taking information from anybody. No charts, no profit and loss statements, no life experience. Got a good stock? Oh, yeah, I know a few. Early in 1953, I was performing in Toronto. Because of my first extraordinary $8,000 break with Brylan, Canada was the land of financial milk and honey as far as I was concerned. So I decided this was a good place to go looking for a hot tip. I asked several people if they knew a good, reliable broker, and eventually I was recommended to one. I must admit, I was startled and disappointed when I found his office. It was a tiny, dingy, prison like room full of books. Okay, that's okay. With strange scrawls on the walls. Later, I found out that these are called charts. There did not seem much smell of success or efficiency. Yeah, because books, if it's too many of them in a small room, it starts to smell like something else. Sitting at a roll top desk, he was a busy little man poring over statistics in books. When I asked him if he knew a good stock, he reacted at once. He smiled and pulled out of his pocket a dividend check bearing the name of the famous gold company Kerr Addison. He stood up and said, my friend, take a good look at that. That dividend check is worth 5 times what my father paid. I don't know why I'm doing that for the original stock. That is the sort of stock everyone looks for. A dividend 5 times the price of the original stock? This excited me as it would any man. The dividend was 80 cents, so his father must have only paid 16 cents for the stock. It looked beautiful to me. I did not realize he had probably been holding on to his father's stock for 35 years. The little man described to me how he had been looking for that kind of stock for years. In view of his father's success, he felt the answer must be in gold mines. He confided to me that he had at last found it. It was called Eastern Malartic. Working with his production figures, estimates, and financial information, he reckoned that these gold mines were capable of twice their present gold production. Therefore, $5 invested in their stock would soon be worth $10. On this piece of erudite information, I immediately bought 1,000 shares. So how much did he pay? Really quick math question. Five. So how much was it? How much did he pay? Let's go back. We don't know because it didn't say what it didn't say, right? So he reckoned that these gold were capable. So therefore, $5 of invested stock would soon be worth $10. So we haven't gotten to that point yet, right? So I played you, but whatever. It's here. So um, 1,000 shares, 290 cents. As I watched anxiously, I should have done that. That was me. As I watched anxiously, it went down to 270 cents. So he must be. This isn't traditional. This is not USD, right? Look at it. Then 260. Within weeks, it was down to 241 cents, and I hastily sold my stocks. My stocks. I decided this painstaking, statistically minded broker did not have the answer to making a fortune. Yet the whole thing continued to fascinate me. I went on following any tip, but I seldom made money. If I did, it was immediately offset by my losses. I was such a novice that I did not even understand about broker's commission and transfer taxes. This AKA in Forex swap and commission, right? For instance, I bought Chiron Mines in 1953, in January 1953. It was a 10-cent stock. I bought 10,000 shares. He invested $1,000. I watched the market like a cat, and and when next day Chiron went to 11 cents per share, I called my broker and told him to sell. By my reckoning, I had made $100 in 24 hours, and I thought I was being smart by taking a quick small profit. Isn't that the you can't go broke taking profits? Yes, you can. When I talked to my broker again, he said, "Why did you decide to take a loss?" A loss? I had made $100. He gently explained to me that the broker's commission for buying 10,000 shares was $50. Got him. And for reselling the shares the next day, it was another $50. Check. In addition, there were transfer taxes, so he definitely took a loss. Chiron was just one of the many strange stocks I owned at that time. And we're going to stop down here because this is a point that would love to make for this session today. Others included Mogul Mines, Consolidated Sudbury Basin Mines, Quebec Smelting, Rexbar, J Exploration. He says, I made money on none of them. Yet I spent a happy year on this Canadian buying and selling. I felt I was a successful businessman. Is he? He don't have to call people out like this. I feel like this is a typical journey. Immediately once I started learning forex, I'm like, oh, I'm a trader now. You know what I mean? I updated my Instagram at the time. So I'm a day trader immediately. So I can relate. I jumped in and out of the market like a grasshopper. I was delighted if I made 2 points. I often owned 25 to 30 stocks at a time. Yikes. Now, here's the thing. Your portfolio, how you manage your portfolio, 100% up to you. Primarily trading currencies. Let's focus on what he's saying. He's in the stock market. So a lot of stock traders that are looking to buy and hold these trades, they're doing fundamental analysis. Can you imagine what your workload must be if you're keeping up with 25 to 30 stocks at a time? So let's take it over to Forex. If you are trading 25 pairs, some brokers don't even offer that many pairs, but just imagine having a position on all of these pairs at the same time. and not being in a position to where if they move a certain way, it's being offset by another one. So let me see here. I do want to finish this chapter if it's short enough. Let me just double check we're on this page. Yeah, we should be able to finish it here. Let's just continue. For some of them, I acquired a special liking. This came for different reasons. Sometimes it was because they were given to me by a good friend of mine. Other times because I had started by making money with them. This led me to prefer these stocks more than others. And before I knew what I was doing, I had started to keep pets. Man, is he talking to me? Golly, he need to get out of my business. Not too much on me, but not too much on me, but um I praise their virtues day and night. I talked about them as one talks about his children. It did not bother me that no one else could see any special virtue in my pet stocks to distinguish them from any other stocks. This state of mind lasted until I realized that my pet stocks were causing me my heaviest losses. In a few months, my record of transactions looked like the trading record of a small scale stock exchange. I felt I was doing all right. I appeared to be ahead. If I had carefully studied my statements, I would not have felt quite so happy. I would have realized that, like a horse player, I was buoyed up and excited by small gains and overlooked my losses. I completely ignored the fact that I was holding a lot of stock which was standing well below the price I had paid for it and looked like staying there. It was a period of wild, foolish gambling with no effort to find the reasons for my operation. I followed hunches. I went by God sent names, rumors of uranium finds, oil strikes, anything anyone told me. When there were constant losses an occasional small gain gave me hope, like the carrot before the donkey's nose. Then one day, after I had been buying and selling for about 7 months, I decided to go over my books. When I added up the values of the bad stocks I was holding, I found I had lost almost 3 grand. It was on that day I began to suspect that there was something wrong with my money making machine. A ghost at the back of my mind began to whisper to me that, in fact, I had no idea what I was doing. Yet I still went ahead. I consoled myself that I had not touched the 3,000 I had originally paid for Brylan, and I had about 5,000 of my profit from that transaction besides. So he originally had 8,000 in profit. He's down about three. But if I continue like this, how much longer would I keep it? Here's just one page from my profit and loss accounting. It tells the whole sad story of defeat in microcosm. So we need to do this for ourselves, right? Go back and look at it. So, Old Smoky Gas and Oils, bought at 19 cents, sold at 10. Chiron Mines, bought at 12 cents, sold at 8. Rexspar, bought at 130 cents, sold at 110 cents. Quebec Smelting and Refining, bought at 22 cents, sold at 14 cents. Obsessed by my carrot before the nose gains, I had not noticed I I was losing an average of $100 a week. It was my first stock market dilemma.